One.
And welcome back, everybody. We are live from Sidelines in Maumee. It's the St. John's Jesuit Coaches Show on 107.7 The Wolf. I'm Gary Sensenstein with Josh Jump. He's working the board back at the Wolf. You know, usually right off the bat, Coach Larry McDaniel is with us, and coming out of the bullpen, assistant coaches Dave Romaker, Mike Veasley. Good to have both of you guys here tonight. Mike, we'll get you first. You know, you're sitting there back. You know, you're the running back coach. It's been a rough couple of weeks, but I tell you what, you lost Carson Toth for that Finley game, but what was it like for you to watch that C.J. Valentine step up in that game Friday night and the way he played?
Well, I expected him to do that. I mean, I see him as fairly even, so I expected him to step in and to be, to do what he did. So. He's a good
in a game like that.
Athlete.
In a game like that, when you're sitting there watching the game progress, you're sitting there, you're in pretty good shape. We're up 17-0. All of a sudden, it's 21-17. What was the mood like with the coaching staff during that game?
We were fine. We prepared for that kind of thing. I mean, like every day, I'm just saying we do that where we're down some points and we got to score in a hurry and we got to get everything clicking. So the kids are used to that. So that's, so nobody's panicking. We're just trying to just be on cylinders. CJ is the senior, really. So and it was senior day, so it was a highlight for him. So he was looking forward to just to carry the load.
Obviously, the biggest question of the day is how is Carson Toth doing?
He's doing fine. He'll be out there this week, tomorrow night, and getting them back in and getting them back to form. So I mean, he's ready.
Also joining us, safety coach Dave Romaker, and I know a couple weeks ago, for the first couple games, we didn't have Gary Batch in that secondary. What has he meant for you guys? And
presence on the field, just from not only from his experience, but as a senior. And the impact he has on the defense. They rally around him. They did when he came back. You could see a change in personality. Gary's very vocal. He understands every nuance of the defense, and he's our quarterback on the defensive side, which a lot of strong safeties are. So having him back just to keep everybody where they were supposed to be, understand the checks, and going through game prep with a young man like Gary is phenomenal, because he's not only going to listen to what you have to say and then remind you of what he's seen over the time to make sure we're all on the same page.
Talk a little bit about the progression of Juju Jackson. In the scrimmages, even in the first couple games, he was like a penalty waiting to happen, because you could just it's like, and you know exactly what I'm talking about in the scrimmages. He was like chasing guys down, kind of getting caught. Talk about Juju's progression here in the first 8 games of the year.
Certainly, and I've had the benefit last year as freshman head coach of seeing Juju in that freshman class, the 22 class, and seeing him progress from what he had to do at the freshman level to and Coach Mack says a lot like Friday Night Lights.
Right.
And I think in the beginning as a sophomore, you get a little Friday Night Lights. But he has that skill set and the mindset that he can move forward. He's okay making a mistake. He'll go forward and he'll give you his best effort every single play out there. And that's what you want out of a young kid.
What do you want to see from your secondary? Do you want to see press coverage? Do you want to tell me about the philosophy of your safeties?
In terms of our safeties, we look at the scheme each week, and it's changed dramatically from those first 7 games, and all of a sudden we go to a pure spread type team in Finley. Same thing with Clay. Right. So they've been so used to playing down in the box, run, whether it was Whitmer, whether it was Central, those games where we relied on those guys to make collectively maybe 15 to 17 tackles a game. And now it's changed dramatically towards being in pass coverage. But I think we can adapt to that. Last week we're completely mindset into a pass game, and now we'll be really settled in on what we're ready to do.
Yeah, again, talking about that, there was a couple games there where I tell you what, I was calling Chad Berg's name so many times in games, because your secondary was making a lot of tackles in those games.
And it was, statistically speaking, as I've gone back, Chad's averaged close to 10 tackles a game, and as a safety, it sounds like that's not something you want. But when you realize the teams we play in the track, especially, that run the ball so much as the higher echelon teams do, your safeties are going to have those numbers.
Mike, talking about the running game, the first couple weeks of the season, we're just kind of throwing it. The Whitmer game, the running game kept, kind of finally caught up. We had 75 yards rushing in that game, finally hit the century mark against St. Francis. How important has that been for your progress as well?
It's been very important. I mean, like I said, the guys are just chomping at the bit, waiting on the gate for that opportunity. They're always like, "Are we going to run it this week a lot, coach, or not?" But our scheme is so that my guys have good good hands too. They're good catchers out of the backfield. So, we're that next part, wherever we fit in. And I always have them prepped, and I always tell them, just be prepared. If we get the ball, be prepared that, to make something happen, to make something positive happen, and be prepared at all times. So, we've been waiting. So, as we've been progressing and we're starting to find the running game more. And a lot of that has to do with the line too, just as the line has gotten better and strong, knowing what's going on and knowing what they're supposed to do on certain things, they've created some holes for us too to find. So,
as the running backs coach, I'm sure you're seeing what I'm seeing. In the first 4 or 5 games, everybody was like trying to blow up Brady and blow up the pass coverage. But it seems like the last few weeks, especially starting with the Whitmer game, everybody's playing 3-man fronts and they're bringing 8 guys back. I'm sure you're seeing the same thing as well, aren't you?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, and, like I said, that's for us. That's that opening that we've been waiting on. Because that's what our passing game is so strong that everybody's way back for us, and so the lanes are opening up for the guys easily in the front.
Talk a little bit about the Clay defense. Is that you think that will be their philosophy as well?
That's where it's been. Most teams that have beat us better have dropped a lot more guys back. If they you take a chance if you don't drop a lot of guys back because we have a strong passing offense. So
6 minutes.
We were expecting that to happen, and so it's the same thing. We're expecting to kind of ramp up the run game a little more too.
The way Clay's passing game, Dave, is again, that's one of those. Logan Heinschel a year ago, he started as a freshman. He's a sophomore this year. Do you see him maybe kind of going deep a lot more than a lot of guys we've seen lately?
Deep, maybe not necessarily. I mean, we regard Logan as a phenomenal talent with a lot of shake and bake, the ability to make plays with his legs, even better than what we saw at Finley last week. And so when you're putting that spread type 4 and 5 wide receiver sets with an athlete like that,
right,
that adds that extra dimension that you have to be really disciplined in the coverages that we run. And I'm comfortable with the speed and the athletic ability we have on the defensive side of the ball at all levels, on all 11 kids, that we're scheming to make sure that we put our kids in a good position. Maybe a few new wrinkles this week, but we're certainly looking for him to be an athletic running quarterback.
Perfect. Guys, Dave, good to see you. Mike, good to see you as well. Hopefully we get Coach Mack when we come back. We are live from Sidelines in Maumee. It's St. John's Jesuit Coaches Show on 107.7 The Wolf. And welcome back, everybody. We are live from Sidelines in Maumee. It's a St. John's Jesuit Coaches Show on 107.7 The Wolf. Right out of just through the front door, Coach Larry McDaniel shows up. He sits down. He's ready to rock and roll. And I tell you, I'm sitting upstairs Friday night. I'm breathing heavy. I'm looking for a defibrillator. How are you holding up on the sidelines on Friday?
Well, to give you an idea, I don't think I've regained my sleep pattern. I think it might come back tonight. That's what that doggone game did to me and our staff on Friday night. But you know what the big thing is? You came out of it with a victory, and that's the most important thing. You know, when you look at the past, those are the games that in my tenure, we weren't able to come up with. That was the first year that was Bedford. Second year that was Bowling Green. First year that was Fremont Ross. So it's really good to be able to get one of those kind of wins under your belt.
I call it the great escape in the postgame with Coach Etz. But, I also talked in the postgame, like, every year, I don't care what team you are, you have a game like that.
Sure.
Where it looks ugly and whatever, but, as long as there's a W, who cares, right?
Exactly. And that's the way it should be. But, as coaches, it's not like that. As much as I was happy that we got the win, there were still some areas that I wasn't real happy with. Just when you go back and you watch the tape and there's some mistakes that we were making that I wasn't real happy with on both sides of the ball. The bigger issue was just the letdown that we had. We were going in, we were playing a really good ball game. You think about it going in at halftime 10-0. We go in right after half, punch it in, boom, march it down, get 17, 3 and out. We're marching it down again to go score again, and then we have the fumble. And for whatever reason, that's when the wheels kind of came off. So obviously I've got to go back and find out what happened. Why was that the case? And that's what we tried to attack this week.
To me, the biggest thing was 3 possessions where we were at their 35, we were at their 12, we were at their 13, and got no points out of those. It was one of those situations where we really could have just put them out of their misery early in that game.
Yeah, and that's – once again, you have to look at those kind of things as a coach and say, well, why is that the case? We have to be better in that red zone and that alumni zone area. We've got to come away with points in those situations, especially playing a good Clay team this Friday. If you remember, they were beating Findlay. They were up on Findlay 21-7 when Findlay mounted their comeback to beat them 28-21. So they're a darn fine football team, and we know we have our hands full.
The goal line stand at the end of the half, I tell you what, if it's 10-0, it sounds great. Boy, if it's 10-7, even Findlay's even more jacked up in that second half. That was just a huge series there.
It really was. We take our hats off to our kids. They did a great job of rallying around each other. We called a defense, and they snuck it, and we were better at the point of attack than they were at that time, and our kids were able to get some penetration, and then we were bringing pressure off the edges as well, so they were able to come in and clean things up and start pulling them back. So hats off to the kids. That was just one of those things. It was a will type thing. They willed themselves into getting that goal line stop.
And the one guy that really stepped up for you with Carson Toth injured, I thought C.J. Valentine really brought it on Friday for you guys.
Yeah, he did. But, C.J.'s been doing that the entire year. I don't want that to be overshadowed. He and Carson both have been kind of a fire and ice in the backfield. We play with both those guys. I mean, they both have almost equal carries. So we knew what he was capable of doing. We knew there wasn't going to be that much of a letdown. He runs the ball extremely hard. He's a very hard-nosed kid, a tough kid. And he's very prideful. So we knew he was going to, have a really good showing on Friday.
A couple years ago we lost a tough one at Clay, and people are still talking about it, even though at the end of the year you beat Central in that first year. Mm-hmm. Why is it so tough to play at Clay, do you think?
Well, I think a couple of things. One, people have made it tough to play at Clay. Just from a standpoint of, if you go into it saying that it's going to be tough to play at Clay, guess what? It's going to be tough to play at Clay. If you go into it saying it's not going to be tough to play at Clay, it won't be. So I feel you go into it just with anything in life. It's all about the attitude that you take going into it. So that's the biggest fact about this. We got to be one of the venue you have to play. 12,000 people in the stands, or if it's 200 days, 200 people in the stands, and you can't let the external forces
dictate. You think a big part of that attitude was because back in the day, that grass field totally do that. It's much turf.
Yeah, you know what? That was before my time, and I'm not wanting to make excuses. Team points out things that are different if both we had to play on grass
Right.
and then it switched and they had to play on turf. No, we both have to play on it. So just don't have any type of built-in excuses. And my biggest thing is don't let the kids have those. Because if you go into that with that attitude at 14 through 18 years old, they're looking for any opportunity to say, well, they got grass.
Right.
It slowed us down. Our
Right.
speed was negated. It was the
Exactly.
grass. So let's eliminate those
Right.
things
Exactly.
from the jump. And we just say we're going to go play football. Whoever shows up across from us, it's not about them. It's about us.
You know, I talked to Coach Romaker and Beasley about teams' different philosophy against you on defense lately. You know, early in the year, man, they were bringing the house, going after Brady. Everybody seems to be, putting 3 guys in the line. They're putting a bunch of guys in that secondary. How difficult, what kind of changes you have to make for that?
Well, that's where you've seen us have an increase in our rushing game. When they lighten up the box with defenders, it gives us the ability to run the ball. And I think that, we're one of those teams that you've got to be able to mix it up if you really want to keep us off balance. And the first school that did that was they tried everyone else's and we got Wilmer. That was the first time we saw it. But now that we realize that this is how people are going to try to defensively defend us, we've got game plans ready for that. The quarterback, potential kid, he is a great football player. He is savvy. We haven't done well in the past with mobile quarterbacks. So he's a kid that's very mobile, and their big plays come from his mobility. So he is a great challenge for any defense. And then they've got another speedster, number 24. His name escapes me right there, but he's bona fide fast. If he gets the corner on you, he's going to outrun us. I don't think we have good team speed, but he's an exceptional talent. He's one of those kids that I think if he were to run track, he's probably sub 1,100 meter kid. And we just, we may have one guy that can run that fast if he's able to get a corner. And their passing game, they do a nice job of spreading the field, and they've got a lot of good guys who do a nice job in catching the ball. So they're going to present some challenges. They always do. It's from a scheme standpoint, from my point of view, they present, if not the best, one of the best schemes that I see week in and week out.
Coach, I'm glad you made it, man. Good
Thank
to talk
you.
to you. We'll see you at Clay tomorrow. When we come
righty.
back, football seniors Gabrielle Schlabowski and Chris Lash are in the house. We are live from Sidelines in Maumee. It's the St. John's Jesuit Coaches Show on 107.7 The Wolf. Welcome back, everybody. We are live from Sidelines in Maumee. It's the St. John's Jesuit Coaches Show on 107.7 The Wolf. I'm Gary Sensenstein with Josh Jump. He's working the board back at the Wolf. Joining me now, seniors Gabrielle Schlabowski and Chris Lash. And Chewy, we'll get you first, man. You know, for a couple years there, we couldn't find a kicker. We couldn't grow a kicker. How important has been that for you? And again, seeing you kicking extra points, going out there for field goals, it's got to feel good for you.
Oh yeah, it feels great. You know, kicking is just one of the things I've been really good at, and I feel like coming to the team, they're really supportive of me, especially coming in as a sophomore. Just doing my thing. I feel like it's a great asset to the team.
You know, we were joking here just before we came on the air. We were watching you in pregame for Findlay, and most people would say, the way you practice is the way you play. So how do you explain the Findlay game where you couldn't hit in pregame? How do things change when you finally get in the game?
Some pre-games, like especially against Findlay, I wasn't kicking too strong, and it's really just a mental thing. I gotta lock in, and I gotta know that when game time comes, especially just on the sidelines kicking to the net, I really don't got any other option but to hit through the uprights.
And the thing is, even like the few years before you, we weren't even hitting extra points. I mean, you're coming in there making it automatic. It's I'm sure the teammates are appreciating that as well.
Right, and at this point, I feel like PATs are just an afterthought because I think I'm making them at a high rate, and so I feel like if I'm able to do that, then I'm saying I'm pretty good.
Also joining us, Chris Lash, linebacker. I got to be honest with you, it's like the last couple of weeks I've been calling your game quite a bit. Have you noticed that as well? And how much has your game changed since the beginning of the season?
Oh yeah, I've been working so hard, man. Like for all my 4 years in high school, I've been just trying to find myself. I started as a running back. Last year, I got a varsity position at fullback. Didn't get that much time on the field, but I really loved it. And this year, I've just been working hard to get my playing time.
What made you decide to go to linebacker? Was it a coach's decision, or did you just say, "Hey, I want to play. Put me where you think I will be best"?
Yeah, that was pretty much it.
Okay.
I had played linebacker, but it was more of a secondary position
Okay.
all of my years. But this year, I think I found myself a good place I fit in.
What do you like best about it? Is it better hitting than being hit, young man?
Oh yeah, oh yeah. It's so physical. I love it. It's great.
How do you like the way the defense has progressed here since the beginning of the season?
Okay, well, in the beginning of the season, I feel like we were a little bit underestimated. We've been working hard. I feel like now we found where we need to be, and as long as we don't underestimate anybody, and as long as we work hard, play hard in practice, butt people up, we'll play hard in games.
We knew we were going to be undersized going into the year, and I'm sure you recognize that as well. What do you have to do in particular to kind of offset that?
I mean, just work hard in practice. Make sure we stay physical.
Schlabowski, talk to you again. One of our sticking points all year long is kickoffs. We're always begging you not to kick it to anybody. Unfortunately, you kicked it to Alberts in that Anthony Wayne game. Yeah. But again, now the philosophy, chipping it, pooching it or whatever. I mean, what's the philosophy of the kicking game right now?
Well, right now we're just working on squib kicks, especially away from their deadly returners. Last game against Findlay, we were trying to kick away from number one, and really just the philosophy is, get it on the ground, get bounced, and hopefully take a good bounce so we can get on the ball.
And again, watching you, sometimes, you really get that bounce, the thing that goes in the air. There's been a couple times guys haven't been able to field your kickoffs.
Right, and that's, the main part. Just get it in the air, get it bounced on the ground, and if we can come up with it as a stolen possession.
Chris, talking again about the Clay offense, what are you most worried about against Clay tomorrow?
There's a lot of speed on their receivers and their running back and their QB. I mean, as long as we just make sure we get our wide feet run, make sure we get our tackles in.
Perfect. Chris, good to see you. Chewy, good to see you as well. Kick them good before the game, even on Friday too. Okay. When we come back, Southmore golfer Joey Gemerchak is here to talk about the state golf tournament just a week ago. We are live from Sidelines in Maumee. It's a St. John's Jesuit Coaches Show on 107.7 The Wolf. And welcome back, everybody. We are live from Sidelines in Maumee. It's the St. John's Jesuit Coaches Show on 107.7 The Wolf. I'm Gary Sentenstein with Josh Jump working the board back at the Wolf. As always, the folks from BCSN streaming live, golfers joining us, just off the state golf tournament. And I was joking with you. It's like the first tee. I've played that golf course before. I was nervous and I wasn't competing. Tell me about what your emotions were like on that first tee, drawing it back on that first tee.
Yeah, it was the first time I played that golf course. I was pretty nervous because the first hole is not the easiest hole. I didn't hit a great shot, but I didn't do anything terrible, so that was a good feeling.
Every time I played that first hole, it's like usually the wind's in my face, and I'm hitting driver 3-wood, and I'm still short of the green. What was your first hole like?
In my practice round, I played there on Thursday. The wind was in my face, and I had pretty far into the green. But then the second day, the first round on Friday, the wind wasn't that bad, so I don't think I had more than a big iron into the green.
Tell me what the experience was like for you. How'd you feel after it was all over?
After it was over, I felt like I played good. I shot 283s, which is my season average, and that was a really tough course, so I thought that I played well.
I was going to say, did you feel comfortable with the 83s and kind of felt like that was probably the best you could do this time around?
I felt like I definitely could have shot in the 70s, but given the circumstances, I feel like that wasn't a terrible score. My goal was to break 85 both days, and I accomplished that.
Again, going into the season, I know like halfway through the season, you weren't shooting these kind of numbers. What changed for you from the middle of the season till the end of the season?
I kind of just game mentality. Like, the season's halfway over. I'm not just going to dwell on the first half. I'm just going to say this is the second half. I'm just going to go and try to shoot some low numbers and see what happens.
What'd you learn from the season? What'd you learn about yourself, your game, as the season went on?
I learned that in the future I could be like a really good player.
In particular, what stepped up for you? Was it just your driving, your completeness of the game, or did you just get more confidence as the season went on?
I definitely had a lot of confidence going to districts. I gained about 10 yards on my drive, probably from mid-season to end season, and all my irons were a lot more precise.
Is there anything in particular you want to work on, or do you just want to lift a little bit more, get a little bit beefier, or is it just physical for you right now?
I'm definitely going to try to get stronger, but I definitely work on my putting in the off season because that was my low point. That was my weakness all season.
Again, I joked with you before. Did your father carry your clubs for you down in Columbus, or were you worried you'd have to pay him after you got done?
He didn't carry my clubs, but he was there to support me.
Again, when you're playing down there and you watch these other, I understand the guy who won it was 2 under par. When you hear that kind of, are you saying to yourself, gee whiz, how does somebody shoot 2 under par in this place?
Yeah, shooting 2 under par is very impressive there. I can see it happening, but that's still a really good score.
Again, it isn't just you with that golf tournament as well. Looking at this golf team, the Finley guys coming in, you're a sophomore, Joey's coming back next year as a senior. You guys got to feel pretty confident as a team for next year.
I feel like we have a lot of potential going into next year. I feel like we'll definitely be better than this year.
Going into the year, did you ever, in your highest expectations, to be sitting here talking about playing down at the Scarlet Golf Course down in Columbus?
Not as an individual, definitely not.
Again, talk about the team in general. Like, what are your expectations for next year? Who's coming back? And talk about the team a little bit.
Joey Hoppenjans, track player of the year, is going to be coming back for his senior year. The 2 freshmen from Finley will be back. We'll have a freshman coming in from the academy who's pretty good, and I'll be there.
Perfect. Joey, good to see you. I'm glad you played well down there. When we come back, Spirit Squad moderator Sue Matuzak and Spirit Squad member and Wolf board operator Braden Moriarty are in the house. We're live from Sidelines in Maumee. It's the St. John's Jesuit Coaches Show on 107.7 The Wolf. Mommy. It's a St. John's Jesuit Coaches Show on 107.7 The Wolf. Braden Moriarty sitting here signaling everybody down here at the BCSN table. Of course, he usually works the board back at the Wolf. And, of course, Spirit Squad moderator Sue Matuzak is here. And got to ask you, what exactly does your Spirit Squad do?
They get everybody jacked up at school is what they do. And the spirit has been very high, wouldn't you say, Mort, this year? Thanks to the football team, of course.
Other than just at school, anything else in particular?
What else you guys do?
We run the St. John's student section Twitter account, which is pretty successful, getting
The
people
Twitter
out to the
account,
games.
yep. And they go to all the other games, too.
Yeah,
Soccer.
yeah. We like to get out to as many St. John's games as we can, like to support the boys.
Is the Twitter account a lot more active the last couple of years for you guys?
Yeah, we like to try to up its activity, get involved with people, try to get people out to the games.
And in particular, what do you guys do? What do you send out? Is it one of the like the theme night and Navy night and white pink outs and things like that?
We like to use a lot of emojis, try to get people out there. We tell them the theme, what time, where to be, and who we're playing, usually with a light chirp here and there.
So does Sue, does she patrol the hallways and say, you're on the Spirit Squad. You're on the Spirit Squad. How does it work? How do you get into it?
No, they have to sign up, and then we have an interview process. And we make them do their favorite cheer right there in front of us, just like if they were in front of the student section. And then my committee and we discuss who should be on it. And we make sure they have at least decent grades. We're not just going to take, they have to be able to handle both the Spirit Squad and their academics too.
Okay.
But this year's squad has been very good, I have to say. I haven't really had to do a whole lot with them. I mean, I kind of facilitate what they want. They came up with all the designs for the T-shirts. This last one we had the pink out. That shirt I could have sold so many more. It was such a hit, and it was all due to these guys.
I was going to say, how big was that? You guys were in the opposite field of us from the press box, and boy, it really stood out for us.
Oh my God, that was a fun game. The St. Francis game. Hey, alums, beat that school on Bancroft, I should say. But that was really so much fun that night.
Again, how long have you been the moderator for the Spirit Squad, and what's changed for you as far as your role?
Well, I've been at St. John's now. This is my 21st school year. And this is my 11th year as Spirit Squad moderator, activities and all. And I keep saying I'm going to retire. I'm getting too old for this. But the kids, they just seem to respond. I don't know. I know the gap between me and the kids are getting bigger and larger, but they seem to respond to me somehow. I don't know. Maybe I act crazy sometimes, huh? Do you think so, Mort?
Braden, any chance you can convince her to do the karaoke in the car again?
The karaoke in the car is a staple of St. John's.
Yeah.
One of my favorite things, every time I saw your face in the announcements in the car, drive around the parking lot in circles.
What was your favorite? To me, my favorite one of all time is still in the tournament, Ed Heinzel coming out of the back seat. I don't think I've ever seen him enjoy a season as he did as much as he did that year.
That was so much fun. I think I'm the only one that could ever convince him to do something like that. I love Ed Heinzel. He's such a legend at St. John's, and he was such a good sport to do that. He deserved it, and I think that was the biggest hit on YouTube. I think we had over like 10,000 hits. So I don't know how we can ever top that, but there are some karaoke's coming up.
Perfect. Braden, other than being on the Spirit Squad, you work for me on a Thursday night, working the board back at the Wolf. What made you decide to do it, and what kind of role do you have doing it?
Well, Sid came into my broadcasting tech class, and he was talking about position of the job. And when I'm going to college, I'm either looking and minoring in film or broadcasting, so I thought it's a perfect opportunity. I can make a little bit of money and learn about what I want to do in my future career.
Again, what's the hardest part of the job? Is it just working the board, or is it just dealing with me?
Dealing with you, man.
Good answer, Mort.
But again, you do it every Thursday night. When you're sitting there, do you actually listen to the show at all, or are you just kind of concentrating on, the times, making sure it's 6-7 minutes a segment? Tell me what you're doing when you're back there.
Well, I usually need to focus on the times to make sure the ads are running and making sure everything's running smoothly, but I like to listen to what's going on, hear the players talk, and I don't know. I just enjoy listening to it every Wednesday. I mean Thursday.
There you go. Perfect. Great. Good to see
And
you.
Moore is such a great part of the Spirit Squad too. He's wacky, he's funny, and he's ready to do anything I ask him. So he's a great part of the Spirit Squad.
When I get held back next year, right?
Yeah.
You're going to get held back. There you go. Good to see you guys.
Yeah,
When
thanks
we
a
come
lot.
back, we're going to have senior cross-country runner.
Go Titans!
Yeah, we're going to talk to a couple of those guys. Liam Seipel and Anthony Patton are in the house talking about cross-country. We're live from Sidelines in Maumee. It's the St. John's Jesuit Coaches Show on 107.7 The Wolf. On me, it's the St. John's Jesuit Coaches Show on 107.7 The Wolf. I'm Gary Sentenstein with Josh Jump working the board back at the Wolf. Of course, the BCSN crowd is here. Blaze Witten, our punter, he's the master controller right now, dealing with the BCSN show. Unfortunately, Liam Seipel couldn't make it. Sophomore cross-country runner Anthony Patton is in the house. And Anthony, it's all on you, man. You've been with me for a couple weeks now.
Yeah.
Tell me about the district meet over the weekend. What was it like there for you, and getting ready for the regional meet?
It was crazy. I mean, there was a lot more people than I would expect. A lot more people than at track championships. But it was unfortunate though that we got beat by our enemy, St. Francis. And we've been cutting down a lot for regionals, slowing down the mileage.
Again, going from the track championship to the districts. Tell me about the intensity level. How much did it change for you guys?
I mean, it's still pretty intense for us,
right.
But like the workouts that we do, I mean, it's lower intensity.
What was the difference between the track meet and the district meet? Did you kind of sense a difference in the meet or not?
Yeah, because we noticed that a replacement for Whitmer was Perrysburg.
Again, how good is Perrysburg when I went into the thing? Was that not a surprise for anybody?
That they won?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because Whitmer's. They're a really good team. They're very solid.
What's it going to take in the regional? I know, I was talking to your parents before we came on, and we're talking about the weather conditions. When you're running and stuff like that, how difficult will that be in Tiffin on Saturday?
Well, everybody has their own unique running area that they like. I mean, I personally like to run in the rain. It's easier for me.
Why is that?
I don't know. I just feel like I can run faster.
And any reason why you run faster in the rain? Is it just a mental thing for you?
It's just a mental thing to me.
Now, when you just run just for the fun of it, do you like when you look outside and you see it pouring rain outside, do you sit there and it's like, hey, Mom, Dad, I'm going out and going to run today?
No, usually when I'm forced to.
Well, not when you're talking about the meet in general. When you get the regional meet, how many teams go to states? How many different runners go to states?
It's top 8 that goes to states, and it's top 2 teams that go to states.
Again, talk about the way you've progressed this year. How was your district meet? Were you happy with it, or what do you need to improve on for the regional meet?
I was very satisfied with how I did at the district meet. I made a huge PR by breaking 17, and I need to improve greatly for regionals by running low 16s.
Now, coming out of the district meet, was Coach Black relatively happy about the performance, or does he maybe expect a little bit more from the regional from you guys?
He was very happy with how we did because St. John's has not been to regionals as a team in, I think, 5 years, 4.
Okay. When you were there in the districts, and what stood out for you the most in that meet?
Just like the atmosphere. Like everybody cheering, it really pushes you to go.
Again, when you're running, do you notice that?
Yeah, I mean, I start smiling sometimes when I see my teammates, like when they're cheering for me.
No, when you're running, I mean, obviously you're looking at certain guys. Is there somebody you're looking at in particular that you want to mark in that race on Saturday?
I look for the Perrysburg kid that's closest to me or the team that we're gunning for. If I see him in front of me, I want to stay with him.
Good to see you again, man.
Have
a good time this weekend. When we come back,
thanks.
We're going to wrap things up with Director of Athletics Bob Rodet with the Chick-fil-A Athlete and Teacher of the Week. We are live from Sidelines in Maumee. It's the St. John's Jesuit Coaches Show on 107.7 The Wolf. And welcome back, everybody. We are live from Sidelines in Maumee. It's the St. John's Jesuit Coaches Show on 107.7 The Wolf. Time to wrap things up with Director of Athletics, Bob Ronay. He has the Chick-fil-A Athlete and Teacher of the Week.
Well, first of all, I want to thank our friends over there in Airport Highway, Chick-fil-A, for sponsoring this. And the faculty administrative staff person of the week is our own Sue Matusak. Sue works in the main office. She's in charge of the Spirit Squad, and she is SJJ. I tell you, she makes the school go. She's a great person. She's helped me out tremendously when I first got there, and continues. And she loves the kids, and the school wouldn't be what it is without Sue Matusak. So congratulations to Sue. Our athlete of the week is our own Gabe Jibowaski. Gabe serves as the kicker.
Whoa.
Did I kill it?
Whoa, Gabe,
you got to help me on this one. I think I butchered it right there.
Schlabowski. Say it again.
Schlabowski.
No. Schlabowski. It's like, remember, you ever seen the movie The Big Lebowski?
Oh, The Big Lebowski.
He's the Big Schlabowski.
Gotcha. All right.
Good. Okay, let's get that straightened out, Joe.
Gabe serves as the kicker for the Titans and helped the Titans to a 31-28 victory over Findlay. Gabe was 4 for 4 on extra points and hit a field goal early in the game that serves as the difference for the Titans in the victory. And I tell you, we were talking about who was going to get the award this week, and Gabe's name came up right away, and because the kicks he made, that was a big game. People don't realize how big a game that was. Findlay going in, their Division I in their region, they were 9th, so that was a huge game for them. And to go back and forth, and any miscue, especially in the kicking game, would have been huge. And Gabe came through, and it was a big win for us. Obviously, we're 4th now in our region with 2 games to go, and it was a great game. And if we keep going on, hopefully we'll be hosting a game at home in the first round of the playoffs.
Speaking of playoffs, did you notice? Of course, we've jumped up to 4 right now. St. Francis is hanging around there in the top 8, but the one team that's in the top 8 right now, Olentangy Berlin, is now number 8 in the region, a team that just started football a year ago.
Was that great scheduling or what? I'm telling you. But, they've given us points. And, the funny thing with that, they're still there. Like you said, they're 8.
Right.
St. Francis is now 5th. St. Francis has 2 big games.
Right.
They've got to win at least one of them. Because of the way, Berlin is playing right now, someone's going to get knocked out that didn't really think they was going to get knocked out. And so it's going down the wire. We got to win our. We win our 2. We're going to host. We'll either be 4th or 3rd. Right now you got Troy's ahead of us. They've got 2 games left. I'm predicting they're going to split. And if they split and we win both, it's going to come down to secondary points, who's 3rd and who's 4th in the region.
And speaking of tournaments, a tough one for the Titans soccer team. District semi against Northview. Northview scores with 27 seconds left in the game to win that thing 3-2.
Yeah, what a heartbreaker. I tell you, our kids did a great job. Great first year by Coach McElroy. He really had those kids playing well. Won a track championship. And again, one of those nights, you saw how we were out there, the wind going the way it was. It rained early a little bit, sprinkled enough where you're playing on grass and that ball's skipping all over the place. And I thought our kids played well. Could have been anybody's game, and unfortunately, you went to Northview.
And it looks like Crew's hitting the water again this weekend.
Yeah, they're down in Columbus 2 days, and the following week they go to up down to Tennessee in a Major 1. So they've got this weekend and the following weekend, and I tell you, Coach Samuel's doing a great job. Our kids have improved tremendously, and it's very exciting to see what they're doing and how hard they work. They're one of the hardest working teams that we have.
I was at the soccer game the other day and ran into Nick Meter. He says hockey, these guys are practicing pretty soon, like in the next week or so?
Well, hockey, believe it or not, swimming starts tomorrow.
Oh, man.
We already had to move our preseason head coaches meeting up a week because swimming, everything, the calendar's all moved up this year. So swimming starts on tomorrow. November 1st, hockey and basketball starts. So you're talking a week from Friday, they start. And I believe it's either on the 12th or 15th is wrestling. They're a little bit later. But, everything's moving around. You believe it or not, we're at the tail end. You got soccer done now. You've got golf is down. You got cross country. They're in their last 2 weeks. You got regionals this weekend down in Tiffin, and with the states the following week. So, it's getting down to the nitty gritty.
And of course, cross countries in the regionals. The team, really did well. Doing well in the district, making the regional, but individually, Liam Seipel a year ago was like one spot away of qualifying for state. How is it likely? How good is it for Liam on Saturday?
Well, I think it's good not only for Liam, I think it's good for the team. Our kids are really running well right now. They have a great, excellent chance to make it out as a team, and they're in a great position. This group has gotten better each time out, and who expected us to win the track championship? We had people predicting we'd be 4th or 5th. We won that. Come back the next week after a very emotional win, winning the track and qualifying for regional, getting out of district. So, I think not only Liam, but I think the team as a whole has an excellent. Todd Block does a great job. I mean, people don't realize, what he has done with this team, the progress they have made. And you look at what they've had over the last couple of years, and they've just improved. And that has a lot to because of the type of training he has them doing. He's always in the forefront of looking at different things, how he's going to make his team better, how he's going to motivate and everything. Excellent job.
Speaking of the winter sports coming up, your new head basketball coach, Mike Schoen, making some airways this week. Saw some interviews on BCSN. That looked good.
Yeah, BCSN came out, did a nice little plug and everything, and they're going around obviously to all the different high schools, and Mike has done a great job in doing that, and they're getting ready. In fact, the Mr. Bill Harrison shuts the gym down I think on Saturday or Sunday because we're going to get the floors get refinished. You always know when you're right there because we're everything shuts down. Actually, I think tomorrow. I don't know if he's probably going to give them off tomorrow. But I think today, OHSA allows all these individual workouts, and they had individual workouts today, and then they shut down, and a week from Friday they open up.
Give me an idea what Mike's coaching staff is going to look like. Freshman coach, JV coach, maybe assistant coaches for Mike?
Well, he's got Doug Whiteman, who was the JV coach last year. He's going to be his top assistant.
1 minute till.
He's got Moss. Coach Moss is back. He was a JV coach, going to be on the varsity. And he's brought in a couple of newer guys. It's a remake. It's a good staff. It's a young staff. It's something that Mike has done, I think, a very good job in putting together. He was very particular about what he wanted to bring in, who he wanted around the kids, and what he looked as the needs to help benefit his program. Who can help them, from a development standpoint to who's really good from an offensive standpoint, defensive standpoint. So it's a good mix of coaches, but his top man is going to be Doug Whiteman.
Perfect. We'll see you at Clay tomorrow night. We want to thank the folks from Sidelines, as always. Good to have head football coach Larry McDaniel in the house. Assistant football coaches Dave Romaker, Mike Veasley, of course, players Gabriel Schlabowski and Chris Lash, sophomore golfer Joey Gemerchek, of course, Spirit Squad moderator Sue Matuzak with Spirit Squad member Mr. Braden Moriarty, and, of course, the sophomore cross-country runner Anthony Patton in the house. Next time I talk to you, we'll be tomorrow night from Clay High School at 6:30 pregame here on 107.7 The Wolf as we take on the Clay Eagles. I'm Gary Sensenstein saying good night and all the best. We were live from Sidelines in Maumee. It's the St. John's Jesuit Coaches Show on 107.7 The Wolf.